Welcome to the Do Good X podcast, a sanctuary from the entrepreneur grind. Hosts Kimberly Danielle and Stephen Lewis, advocates for impactful entrepreneurship, guide you on the path where purpose meets business. Join us to slow down, reconnect, and explore the challenges of under-resourced entrepreneurs, uncovering the unique journey of building businesses that make a difference. Now, your hosts.
Welcome to the Do Good X podcast. My name is Stephen Lewis, and I'm a catalyst for positive change in communities and businesses. And for over 2 decades, I've inspired leaders and entrepreneurs to live and work on purpose with intention, faith, and a commitment to their well-being. And I have been cracking up behind the scenes with my co-host, Kimberly Danielle. It's always good to see and be with you.
Good to be with you too, Stephen. You all don't, you don't necessarily know all that goes on behind the scenes when you are creating a podcast and all the fun and funny moments that you will probably never hear. Or maybe our producer, Abe, maybe he will surprise us one day and pull up all of the bloopers. But as Steven said, I am Kimberly Danielle, and I am a communication strategist, a coach and community builder who comes from generations of faith-driven leaders and entrepreneurs who believe that our purpose should drive us all to contribute to the common good. And today, everyone, we are closing out season 2. We have had over 100 episodes. We are at episode, I believe, 102. And it has been such a journey. It's been incredible. We've had some new voices join us in season 2. We've had some guests to come and visit us again and offer deeper insight around various topics. And it's just been a great journey in the second season. And it's wild that this is our last episode. But as we close out, we wanted to return to one last conversation from season 1 that really captures so many of the themes that we've explored this season. So from growth to sustainability and what it truly takes to build something that lasts.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this interview, and this episode is a rewind of our conversation with Devin Baptiste, a serial entrepreneur and the co-founder of GroupRaise. Now, Devin has built a company that scaled quickly and operates in hundreds of cities. But what makes this conversation valuable is not just the experience that he brings, but how honest he is about the cost of entrepreneurship and growth, not just financially, but personally and emotionally. And I just appreciate his kind of honesty and being candid about the journey, its rewards and its challenges.
Yes, this was another really great conversation. And he talks about validating ideas quickly, navigating rapid expansion, and the realities of what underrepresented founders face when it comes to funding, when it comes to access. So, like I said earlier, there's just so many topics that we hit on that really span the entire season of this podcast. And it's clear that Devin is so intentional about learning from both success and challenges that arise. Notice I don't say failure because failure is actually really not failure. It is just moments in which you are provided information to get you on the path that you are supposed to be on. So the question always remains, will you take that moment to learn from those experiences versus seeing it as a failed moment? So he gives us such a great conversation to really close out this season.
Yeah, and so as we wrap up the season, this episode feels like a fitting reminder that entrepreneurship is not just about momentum, it's about wisdom, timing, and knowing when to push and when to pause. Devin also reflects on mentorship, faith, wellness, and the legacy that we want to leave.
We are very grateful that you've been on this journey with us in this season, or if this is the first episode you are listening to, we are happy that you are here. And we hope that you join us in the next season. And we look forward to what season 3 will bring. But until then, enjoy this conversation with Devin and reflect on what's next for you and your business. Don't forget to slow down and then move forward with intention. Until season 3, be well and do good. And we are so grateful to not just have you on this podcast, but also to have you as a Do Good X mentor. And so, really looking forward to diving into your story and your insights and expertise to be able to share with a wider audience today.
It's a pleasure.
You also have quite a track record with helping other founders to raise money for their business, and particularly underrepresented founders and those who are new to the market. What specific strategies or tactics have you found to be effective with helping these founders secure funding?
Yeah. Um, there's a lot of things, but I think at first it's just like I was really blessed to get some key insights. So I have this thing in my mind where I remember everything I learned and when I learned it and who taught it to me. So I remember what I used to think about topics, and especially like when I thought a series of things that turned out to not be true. And I try to keep a good log of the audit of my history of thought on any particular topic and what I had to adjust in my own mentality in order to get from where I was to the next level, right? And there's always a next level. There's all I what like, and I specifically like. And so one of the stages in my process is after I think I've learned something, like I observed myself and I changed it, for me to really put it in the file of it's true. It's something that's like it's I'm a science nerd, so I like to think about science as anything that's replicable in the universe, right? So anything that is not, so like for it to truly be true, it can't just be true for me, it has to also be true for someone else. And so teaching for me is this mechanism where I take a lesson that I think I learned and I teach it to someone else. And I have this hypothesis: if I knew this that I know now earlier in my journey, I would have gotten over this hurdle much, much faster with much less stress and with much more speed, right? And so, um, mentoring founders is this kind of, exercise for me to really create validated learning and to like also validate that this is in the learned bucket. And I have a big bucket of unlearned, like unsolved problems. So, and I think everybody, I don't think that bucket will ever go away in my life. I definitely don't have it all figured out. But I have, I think learned some things. And then I found that when I taught those things, it didn't matter the race, the gender, the religion, the location, that these things tended to be true about the nature of startups. And particularly that I found that a lot of the advice that was given was true for the individual who gave it, but it didn't translate well to underrepresented communities. They hadn't added that layer on top of it to think through the kind of demons that come into your head when you're in a room and you face a lot of rejection, and maybe you're a person of color, or maybe you're a woman, or maybe you have all these things that you're unsure about. And so I felt like there needed to be an additional translation layer on top of a lot of the traditional advice for running startups, because running startups traditionally have not always been run by people who look like myself. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about distilling those things down. And so now I try to, when I work with founders, find out where they are in their own set of belief and journey, and build, and then give them some feedback and give them, in some cases, word for word tactics, in other cases, just like frameworks to get a different perspective on, people. The first thing I always start is that people won't give you money because you need it. That's a that's like the first principle. Like, yes, I know you need money, just like nobody will date you because you're lonely. It's not a reason. It's like that may be your catalyst to go to the market, right? To find a partner. But that is like, we got to talk about a hobby. We got to talk about faith. We got to talk about some shared interest. We have to talk about how we form and co-create value. That is what gives you these enduring relationships, not your sense of lack. And so many, it's like, it's not as though you can't talk about that business is hard because you don't have money or what, but that's like something, you talk about with a co-founder or with a fellow entrepreneur. It's like, or if you're lonely, tell that to your friend. Don't tell that on your date, right? So just really like helping people sort, what are dating conversations that we can have with investors and capital providers, and what are emotional support conversations that we need to have with ecosystem players, co-founders, other players. And we cannot those worlds can't merge if you're going to go get capital, because I don't know, I always say is that like capitalism is, for better or for worse, the two core driving emotions behind capitalism are fear and greed, right? So individuals who are afraid on missing out an opportunity and see something that's going to be very large and want to participate, right? Those are the two underlying mechanisms. So anything else that doesn't drive that human emotion of greed or fear tends to not be a useful mechanism in capital allocation. And so um, it's a very simple idea when you get it. So when I look at decks, every slide I look at is does it create some fear of somebody missing this opportunity, or some potential chance that this is going to be very large, and um, that they don't want to miss that. So it's just helping founders get oriented to think about what they're going into, and then to think about their opportunity. Like, there's a big difference between whether a business is good for you as a founder to run and operate to fund your lifestyle and your needs, and whether your business is a product for an investor to be able to purchase, to see that in the future they're going to be able to make more money than they give you today, right? And so
That's good.
um, very simple ideas in the end. Like, once you get that, once you can really understand it, and you're communicating why you as a founder and the company you're working on are the right individual and the right opportunity to really reach a scale that is an attractive product, right, for investors. So that's kind of, I don't know if that answers your question, but those are first principles of how I think about this and what I try to teach founders about going to the market to raise capital.
What are the key qualities or skills that you look for in founders who are your mentees that you believe position them for success?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So the place I am in my journey is, I am not a on the tourism board for entrepreneurship. I said this a little bit earlier. So, meaning it's important to know what you're getting into and actually how difficult it is. Like
Mm.
that, one of my favorite founders I work with, her name is Jade, and she runs a company called She Matters. And She Matters is focused on teaching healthcare professionals how to help, particularly African American women in hospital environments who typically have a um, um, morbidity in the Black community is about 5 times higher than any other community in the US. And so there are very specific health markers and things to check for um, when you go into the hospital. And so they created a certification to really train medical professionals on what to look for when they're serving, particularly Black moms when they come to deliver their babies. And she's now successfully raised venture, and she's growing that program massively. But when she came to me, she had never raised money, and um, working with the founder who is pushing on the world in that way gives me so much joy, right? To help her, right, bring these patient outcomes to bear into the world, and to help professionals become more mindful. And so it's like folks like that who have some sort of impact, but then they're also like, the reason why she wants that business to be venture scale is because she wants that problem to have a venture scale solution, right? To be able to be solved not only regionally or in a specific hospital, but in every hospital in America, right? Or every hospital in the world, really. And so um, that is that's a hard journey. Like, and she's faced a lot of challenges, and I respect her a ton for the challenges, but it's also a worthwhile payoff, right? Where it's beyond. So I like um, So for me, I love how those founders who are finding problems that are important problems that are maybe in the too hard to pick up pile for other types of founders, but are really passionate about that. Those are the founders who I love to give unfair advantages when they go to get capital, to go help them tell their stories, to help them navigate the entrepreneurial life, what it takes to do that. I typically like to work with founders who built something. So um, you've gone out and you hit your head against the wall, because I have a hard time with founders who think that they know all the answers and haven't built anything yet. And so I'm like, life is hard enough. I don't really need to be hard on you. Like, this game is a hard enough game. So you have to have played the game a little bit. I think in order for kind of my advice and insight to to resonate, because until you hit a problem you don't know how to solve, it's all theory. And so kind of post theory founders who are working on impact are that's my sweet spot. But anyone who wants to endeavor to create a life or push on the world through entrepreneurship, I'm really passionate about helping. But that's just kind of a flavor of who I like to get up and go and help.
Let me ask you this. How do you balance giving support and guidance with allowing your mentees to make decisions and also learning from their mistakes?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the end of the day, I don't really tell you what to do. That's not my goal. I think my objective is to give you how I would think about a problem, and you can mesh that with how you want to think and approach about that problem. So my statement is, and I always talk about David and Goliath. So when originally King Saul gave David his armor, it didn't fit. He wasn't used to that sword. He wasn't used to that clothing. So he couldn't use it. So he had to take off that armor and then find his 5 smooth stones and go kill Goliath in the way that he could do that. And so I encourage founders, like, don't wear my armor. Like, my armor won't fit you. But what I can do is I can help you maybe get some insight about the problem, or get you to see maybe something you're not seeing in the space, and then you can go off and make your own decision about how you want to move forward. So, you know, um that's my kind of approach to mentorship, uh, is 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 that, and less being prescriptive. Right now, if you do want tactical support, I can provide like very specific tactical support, but it's more, I'd prefer to give you a framework that becomes a part of your arsenal, so that you can go and solve it yourself.
So, for listeners who might be looking for a mentor, what do you think that they should specifically look for in a mentor and a mentor-mentee relationship?
um I guess the first thing that comes to mind is, it's fun to mentor people who are facing hard problems, either problems that they faced in the past, or so like you want to be in the exchange of mentee and mentor. There's joy to distill from a life experience to then help someone get through a challenge. So you got to be in a situation that um, requires specialized support. And so I think that oftentimes when we're in those situations, we shy away from, we have this tendency to hide. Lots of founders hide, right? When you're in your truest, hardest problems, we try to not take those to people. And I think that those are the problems that are probably most exciting and interesting for some mentors to support. So um, I say, like, one is have something in specific that you want to discuss, or something that you're focused on, even if it's broad. Two is, like, go do something, even if it's not what the mentor suggested, but you take some action on what that is, and then report back, even positive or negative, right? Oh, hey, this is what I did, and this is how it happened. And then that feedback loop is a very enjoyable feedback loop to be involved in, because, you know, as a mentor, you want the information you give to be useful. And so you want folks who can go, and that speed of from the time that you give that feedback to the time that they go get a learning, an insight, like there's a big difference between an idea and an insight. So an idea is something that's like an untested perspective on the world, and an insight is a response, right, to some action taken, right, and then as a reflection. And so you can start with ideas, but the faster that you get into like an insight feedback loop with a mentor, that's where I think you can create a lot of enduring kind of bi-directional enjoyment.
Thank you for listening to the Do Good X podcast. To continue the conversation or access our resources, visit www.dogoodx.org. Join us again for conversations that will nourish your soul, ignite your dreams, and empower you to build an impactful business, one intentional step at a time. Until then, keep striving, thriving, and doing good.